Okay, good morning and welcome to the Saturday tutorial for Informatics 1. Once again, I'm Sanveer Singh and I'll be basically going through the last practical with you guys. In the meantime, is there anybody who has any specific questions regarding the previous practical? I'm more than willing to answer any questions in the meantime. But yeah, otherwise we'll just be going over the practical and then trying to do that. This should be the last Saturday class, to be honest. So you probably won't be getting another Saturday class. Isn't that lucky? No more waking up early on a Saturday. Kind of confused about files. Okay, that's great. We'll be doing sequential files today with a file stream, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Did you guys learn the difference between different files yet? Did you learn like what's a random access file and how to use it, or what's a binary file or anything like that? No? Yes? Maybe? Not really? Okay. Just what it is, they only told us about sequential. So sequential with a file stream, right? So we'll be doing something similar with today's practical. Sequential with a file stream is actually it's the easiest version of file to work with, right? What it requires is that you tell the computer what you're writing to the file, so you have to tell it what kind of class it is, and that's using the serializable keywords, right? And then using that we can kind of move forward and actually write and read this to our file. But yeah, so let's try and get into this thing, since that's the only real issue, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I'm just gonna open up another Chrome tab here so that we can have a version of the question paper. Okay, I'm hoping everybody can read that I am sharing. So let me know when you guys can see. Please just raise your hand if you can see and read. Okay, cool, thank you. So now we know everybody can read. All right, so let's go through it. The Gauteng Transport Company is piloting a special card for tourists to arrive in Gauteng and make use of the GTC's various types of public transport. The card is meant to provide unlimited travel for a limited period of time. So GTC would like to keep track of the times of the trips that are taken on each card to determine what would be financially viable pricing to charge for such cards going forward, right? Then they say something about object-oriented programming, and that's talking about making sure that you code this in different classes, making sure you use composition or inheritance or whatever the case might be, whatever is needed, right? So the first thing we know is we got a class called trip with a description, a kilometers, a transport mode, and a cost per kilometer, right? Inside here, we also got calc cost. We've got an output mode and a display, right? So those are really really important functions in here. So there's 3 really important, and then there's obviously a validator method. So that's just straight off the bat, we can tell what that kind of does. We see that the displayer has all of these, it kind of gives you all of these fields in a line-by-line basis. We've got a format here, so we know that that needs to be formatted. Okay, so then we create a class called travel card with the following attributes. There's a card ID, there's number of trips, there's trip, which is actually an array of trips, then there's the number of trips, and then there's the cheapest trip. Right, and then in here we got to calculate total cost. There's a constructor that is specified, and then there's find cheapest, and then there's display, right? Something worth noting is that when the question paper specifies a constructor, you don't have to add any other constructors to it, right? You don't have to go the open brackets constructor or anything like that, right? You don't have to go extra like that. Just do what the question paper tells you, right? The questions which follow must be answered using separate methods. So then you've got something about an enumeration. We've got some, okay, so then obviously inputting the data and making use of the enumeration, as well as displaying the output, right? And then we've got files. Save all of these to a file and then read it out and get the average, right? So that's what we'll be trying to do. Let's start off with our TripAdvisor, our trip, yeah, sorry, where we're dealing with these functions here. So everything that we really need is in this little section here for that class. Does anybody not really understand the question in any form, shape, size, or way, so that I can just pay attention to that quickly? Okay, I guess not, which is great, right? But yeah, so then there's another thing I wanted to tell you guys. So today, okay, wait, let's try this. Let's do a quick poll here and see. How do I do that? Yes, no, right? So what I'm asking is, do you guys want me to do a design? Do want me to do, I don't know. All right, so we got a poll here. Let's see what people say. We're waiting for the people to respond. I think there's 2 people who haven't responded yet. It's equal right now. Ooh, okay. And I think I'm the last person who hasn't responded, right? Yeah, so we've got so 3 no's to 2 yeses. So unfortunately, we will not be doing a UML. So I hope that doesn't cause too much of a problem. If we get some time at the end, I can probably try and do a UML. Okay, cool. So let's get into this. Right? So we got the four main variables here: description, kilometers, transport mode, and cost per kilometer. All right. So I'll just open up a blank Visual Studio thing. As you can see, it's properly blank. Let's go. Always remember your option statements and your details, right? Alright, so then what we're gonna do is there's obviously the form, so the first thing we need to do is we need to add a trip class, right? Is there a specific reason why I chose the trip class first? Well, yes. You'll see that there's an array of the trip class inside the card, right? And that means that it's in our best interest to actually make the trip first, otherwise our compiler is really gonna complain us, and it's just going to be a big problem. Essentially, it's going to be a huge problem for us. Our compiler's complaining the whole time that we're chilling. Oh my god. Right, so just to make my life a bit easier, I'm going to move this to the other screen that I have so that I can just read it off there. First thing, variables. Right, description is a string, so I'm going to say private and then we got kilometers as double. That's not what I want. How does it feel to be in the last Saturday class? You guys excited? Are you guys sad? Let's just check out the chat and see what's happening. Mixed emotions. It's fun to not have to be in class, right? It's fun to not have to come to class. Yeah, I also think I might miss it a little bit. Will we see you next year? I don't think so. There's a very low chance of you guys seeing me again next year. Unless I fail honors, which is a bad thing, and then you probably don't want to see me next year. Right? That's not the ideal situation there. But yeah, so there's that. Oh no, these Saturday classes will be happening next year. You'll just have a different tutor. Obviously for informatics 2, you'll have a different tutor anyway. So, and I'm hoping everybody that comes to Saturday classes will make it into informatics 2. Because I really try hard to make sure that that's a good, that you guys have all the stuff necessary to pass, you know? Will it be online again next year? It's yet to be decided, honestly. It's really honestly yet to be decided by the bigwigs at UJ. So depending on what they decide, you guys might be having a bit of online. You guys might be having a bit of having contact classes again. But that's all up to management. And I think the academy will try and keep you guys as safe as possible, which is always a great way to go, right? That was one of the variables. Now we need a constructor. Let's just check the chat one more time, see what you guys are saying. Just saying, okay, cool. So as long as that helps you guys out in understanding, then I'm happy. Alright, so they don't specifically state that you need a constructor here, right? But what I'm gonna do is just to make my life a little bit easier. Let me just make sure that they don't say that. Yeah, there's definitely no constructor here. Let's go check the mark sheet to make sure. Right, trip class. We've got attributes and property methods. There's so it's 4 attributes, and I think you're gonna need 4 property methods. But yeah, so we need a utility method and these 3. So it doesn't actually, you don't get any marks for a constructor. But I'm just gonna make one anyway, right? Because they didn't specify, I'm gonna try and do my best and just make sure that this is fine. And I'm gonna go description string. Please remember the by val by ref so that people know what's happening. val transport as integer val costs doubled, right? And then obviously we're just gonna set them, so description transport mode equals to transport mode and yeah. Alright, this is just to make my life easier. Let's do the property methods over here. We'll knock out A1 one time. Alright. If you didn't specify any of the constructor in triple, you lose marks if you didn't add one. Only had one in the travel card class. No, if you didn't have one, then it's not a problem. As long as you have the relative property methods. Actually, I think it might have been better if you didn't have one. Just because you're following the instructions to the T. I just like having a constructor because I feel it's better programming practice. I mean, if you're making a class that you're instantiating and you don't specify your own constructor, then you're just kind of being lazy, you know? Yeah, that's my opinion. And if you want to follow the instructions to the T and not have one where they don't say you don't need one, then that's perfectly fine. That should be perfectly fine by everybody. Because you do make sure that you got everything that's on the mark sheet and on the actual what's a rubric, and then you should be fine. You should be great, right? The property description is string and property. Right, and we're gonna go. It's also worth noting that you should have some validator for any kind of external information that comes into a string. If you look, there's actually mocks for data, but because we're just doing the property methods now, I'm just gonna quickly run through those, right? Alright, that's that other property method we're looking at. Transport mode and cost per kilometer. Yeah. Cost per kilometer is definitely a double, so I'm just gonna copy and paste. You shouldn't do this. This is bad practice. Right, that's cost per km, and then we've got transport mode, which is an integer. So I'm just gonna type that one out. Sorry about that. Just remember, we use the underscore to stop overshadowing, right? So that's just a key tip for yourself. so that you know what's cracking. Alright, cool. That should be our property methods. Right. So that's our property methods. We've knocked out A1. A1 is complete, right? So now we move on to what is left of stuff. And I think we can go into the utility method, calc trip costs, and output and display, right? So if we look at a method to ensure that negative double values are set to 0, so we're going to have a, I'm just going to call it validator. So doubles, right? And it's going to be a function, right? Just to set things to 0. So definition of a utility method is just like a private thing, while helper method is just to be private. It doesn't always have to be private, but it just makes more sense if it is, right? It's helping you with your internal process of the class, so you don't need to actually do anything else, right? What's missing here is function. And then we should need return. Okay, cool. So this is going to go if, and we'll need to send some double. So parallel, double. Yeah, less than. It's just negatives, right? So less than 0, then you're gonna set it to 0. I think that should be done. So I think there was a question in the chat. Let me just check. In the property methods for kilometer and cost are validated there because there's a double that is wrong. Should I have made the utility method and used that through that method? Yes. Oh, so if you look at the question, right? If you look at the question here, there's definitely a method that they want you to create, right? There's some method that they want you to create here, and if you look at the actual answer here, we've got a utility method. So you're actually getting 2 marks for creating that method and probably using that method. So one for creation, one for use of that method, right? So definitely try and get the method done and then use it, right? So this takes in doubles. So yes, like you mentioned, we should definitely validate our doubles. So I'm just gonna go validate, and I'm gonna put in value here, and that should work. It's pretty simple, right? I love working with a validate function like that. It's pretty quick, it's pretty easy. There we go. And I'm just gonna look at the chat one more time. Thanks, man. No problem. Always here to help. Okay, so there was me validating. So I made sure I validated things. Let's go look at what functions are left to do for this class. We've got the calculate cost trip, right? So I'm just gonna put that at the top here because I mean it's just easier to read the important stuff when it's close to your property methods. So other methods, and then we can go click calculate I'm gonna try and keep the spelling as close to what is specified in the question paper, so it's easy to find for your marker. Right, and this calculates the total of a trip. Now remember, the cost of a trip, that's like multiplication of two doubles, so this should definitely be a double, right? And it should be a function because it's going to return something. So when you consider it like that, it's pretty easy, right? Multiplied by cost. Okay. Right. So any questions with regards to that, essentially? No? All right, cool. No problem. Oh, there is a question. All right, let's just look at the chat. No, okay, cool. Back to work then, and then we should just put a comment here saying calculates the total cost per trip, right? I do apologize for the slight background noise there. Anyway, going on the back. So may you please zoom your screen a bit. On the code, okay, sure. Like, is that a bit better? Okay, cool. No stress. Alright, so that's cost per kilometer. Let's look at the other ones here. So then we've got output mode, right, which is the function that returns a string based on a given integer value. Right, so it returns a string based on an integer value. So we're gonna go public function get. Let's call it output mode. Like I said, we're keep it as close to the thing as normal, close to the question paper specified. It returns a string. Okay. In here we have a integer. Alright, and then we're gonna do a select case, right? Case that's gonna be 1. And then go. Actually, let's make a temp answer here. So this is a bit easier than everyone. Case 2 10 equals mini that. I'm coming to check your questions now. Let me just finish these two things here. Case 3, 4. And this is books. And this is trade. I didn't know Gauteng had built public transport. That's new information to me. All right. Right, there we go. I have no idea why I'm getting Discord messages. I'm sorry if you hear that. Let's just see in the chat, right? So why did you multiply kilometers with cost per kilometers on cost trip, right? Is bival compulsory? Okay, let's start at the top, right? So is bival compulsory inside the brackets other than saying mode as its data type? I'm not sure what that means, but yes, I think it's compulsory because it's just good coding practice to make sure the people who are reading your code know exactly what you're doing, whether it's being sent by val, by ref, right? I think that's the main important thing that you need to remember. Why did I multiply kilometers with the property cost per kilometer on? Okay, let's just see what I've done here. Oh, so actually that should have been that, right? But good spot there. Ideally, it would work still with the property because the property just returns that, right? So it's not a big deal. But yeah, but good spot there. Yeah. So don't you use transport mode property instead of the mode parameter? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but so you mean I should do this whole thing in the actual get transport mode here, so in returning the transport mode instead of that. But you see, this is an integer. I can't be returning a string there. So this is just for output, as far as I can tell. If I am wrong, I take it back. Let's just see what we've got here. Right. Give me 1 second. I'll make sure I'm not lying to you guys. Description kilometers transport. Cost per kilometer. Make a positive. No, that's right. I joined late. Wait, let me see. I missed a few questions here. Why did you use the underscore for the kilometer and not the property value? Okay, so what I think happened here. So, let me explain. Right. So this is definitely the variable here in the beginning, and this is 100% the variable here that I'm talking about. Right. So if you multiply these two, it's fine. But if you do this, it is also fine because when I look at this, right, when I double click and highlight this, you'll see that it's talking about this, which only returns that. So it's the same as substituting this with that. It's not going to make a difference in reality. All I've done is I've just called it by the property name here. So it's not really going to cause a big issue if I put the underscore, but just for consistency's sake, you should definitely put the underscore on both, right? It's just good practice there, right? So hopefully that answers your question. I understand the transport mode property instead of the mode parameter. What do you mean? Why would I have, if I have a parameter, why would I not need the property? What if I want to change the integer that's assigned to transport mode for this trip? I still need the property and the parameter, right? That output function doesn't need a parameter. Oh, okay, wait. I get what you're saying. You're talking about this here. Please explain line 27 temp as a string. Okay, great. Let's just deal with the output mode and this. Right? I actually totally agree. Actually, now that I think about it, this should totally just have been based on the integer. Let's deal with that. I don't know what happened there, but yeah. Yeah, that should definitely be how it should be. Good spot there. That was a great job. Okay, let's talk about line 27, right? So what I did was I created a temporary string. I assigned it the value of null, right? Because what I said was if it wasn't case 1, 2, 3, or 4, if somebody put 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, then this would just be null. Right? So if it wasn't one of these, it's gonna return null. That's essentially what I did there. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. I'm hoping I answered your question regarding the why I removed this variable.
as well as why I put this underscore here. If I didn't, please just let me know, and we'll deal with it again. All right, then this function here, you can say it returns a string version of the right, and then the last thing we need is a yes. Somebody has a question. What's up?
Oh, sir, you didn't answer me. Good morning, firstly. You didn't answer me what concerning the constructor for your trip, because I figured that this is a composition. So are we supposed to have a constructor for trip and not like have it for travel card?
No, you. If it says so, what I did was I created a constructor for this, but that's just because I know that there's going to be an instantiation of this class at some stage in its life, right? So obviously it does
Oh,
have
okay.
automatically it has the normal empty brackets new, which doesn't create these.
Yes,
But I
sir.
just created my own as an extra thing. You don't have to, and actually maybe stick to the actual instructions, and maybe don't create it if they don't ask you to
Oh,
in your
okay.
test. But as if you're debugging and you're busy playing around in your practical, I definitely say create this just so you can test that your class works as it should
Okay.
quicker.
So
Because it's
wouldn't that be marked down if like maybe in the exam they didn't ask me to have it and then I decided to have it? Wouldn't that I be marked down for not following the whole book or the instructions?
I think that kind of depends, right? So if they say don't add any to this class,
Yeah.
if they don't say if they clearly specify that you shouldn't add any extra functions or any extra properties, then you will definitely be marked down. But if they don't,
Oh,
then you should be fine.
all right. For this case for the case of this practical, because they didn't state and they didn't tell us that you have to create it or not create it. So anything that you do, it's fine. Even if you create it, it's still fine. Even if you don't create it, it's still fine.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, thank you, sir.
As long as you can argue your point, right? So let's say your marker asks you, because it's a practical, the marker asks you in person, hey, why do you have a new here? It wasn't on the thing. And you say, well, when I was coding, I know that I'm going to be instantiating one of these, so I thought it'd just be quicker to instantiate all of these variables in one call than going through each of these property methods, right?
All right.
That's a thing you can do, but then remember that you should actually be validating here then also,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
just good coding practice.
Since it's
So
a double there. Okay,
yeah, as
thank
long
you.
as it's a double, you should be validating.
You should
Just like
validate.
that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem. That yeah, so we should have validated in our constructor. All right, I think that covers. I think that covers the basics of this class. I think there is one more method that I need to do. It's going to be called the display methods. Don't like the space in here, so I'm just going to add a line. Cool. Let's see what the actual display thing has to do. All right, so display has to look like this. It has to look exactly like that. Sorry about that. It seems my mom has a small problem that I need to go sort out just now. So I'm just gonna try and finish up this class in the next one, and then show you some files. All right. So this is kind of what our thing has to display. I think this is also a separate line. Yeah. So it's description, kilometers, transport, and then this, right? So let's put this down here, and we'll say display the string, right? And I'm going to put this comment in there. It's definitely related to exactly how this function should work. So let's do our normal, well, my normal thing of creating a temporary string, right? And I'm just gonna set it to empty for now, right? And I'm gonna say temp and equals, and there's gonna be a field. Go back to insert. Description, right, and description, it's kilometers, transport mode, cost, and trip cost. Right. Alright, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say plus environment dot new line, right? And we're also going to add this to every single one of these. Alright, and then in between here, obviously we're just going to add the actual description. Call output mode, did I do that correctly? Yeah, it is. And then in here, what we're going to have is kilometer string cost kilometer and finally it is going to be I think it's trip cost, right? Okay, trip cost. There we go. think that's everything. Yep, so now we can delete this quickly. That's not going to cause a problem anymore. And then we return something. Don't forget to return something in every function call. Well, in every function, because it's otherwise always to be a function, it could just be a method, right? I think that covers everything for our trip class, right? So we've got calc trip cost, calculates the total cost of the trip. This is determined by using cost per kilometers and multiplying it with kilometers traveled. We've got output mode, we've got display. All right, next, so now we move on to the next little class, right? So let's just save this. That's nice and neatly done. I'm just gonna go. Gonna add class. This is gonna be travel card, if I'm not mistaken. Travel card. I'm gonna just copy option statements. And remember to always copy your details at the top also, right? That's just really important. Alright, so what do we need of travel card, right? Travel card is gonna have a card ID, trips, num trips, and the cheapest trip, right? All of these are integer except the actual trips. So let's start with that one. Okay, immediately I can see the cheapest trip is probably going to be holding an index, right? That's already on the question paper, so you don't need to stress about that. Okay, so we've got trips, we've got card ID, num trips, and cheapest trip. All done and dusted. Let's make some property methods, right? Okay, property. Oh, with a hard one. Okay, that's a good insight of the trips. Oh, nice and easy. So I think the question we've always decided we have to have a property method for trips. I'll be so happy. I hate doing property methods. Then we're gonna check. Travel card also has the following methods. Constructor, which assigns travel card's ID and the number of trips. On travel card as well as sizing the trips array based on the number of trips. Okay, cool. Calculate total costs, supply and display. The question follows. Okay, cool. It doesn't say. Doesn't really talk about which ones. Yeah, it doesn't. It just says property methods, and then it says 5. So, but yeah. So, okay. For now, we can just keep this because I don't think because the constructor is going to be dealing with the card ID and the number of trips. So then, and this is a calculated value. So, I think the only one we really need is this, right? Let's deal with the constructor quickly. Round card ID. Yeah. Val traps integer window trips card ID and then so takes the travel card's ID, it assigns that number of trips and resizes the trip, so it's read trips. Yeah, I think that's everything that the constructor has to do. Okay, that covers the constructor. Then we've got calculate total cost, right? Calculates in terms of total cost of all trips. So, total cost public function. Total cost and total. Right, and then right, so in here, all we have to do is loop through trips and total it, right? So, okay, so let's do a full loop first. So I have some questions, so let's go check out the questions. Use loop through area in the constructor. Oh yes, that's very true. Yeah, okay, actually, let's do that. Good spot there. Good job spotting that. Okay, so this is giving me an error here, and I don't really want that error. Really because I want to set the trips individually like this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and I'm going to delete this constructor. Right, so that's a quick way to delete things without really deleting them because it's undoable at a later stage in my life. Yeah, so seeing as we already have a cool for loop that loops through this, let's use it. Let's just have an underscore now. Right, and what we're doing actually is we're going to say answer plus equals calculate trip cost. Let me just set this to 0. And that calculates the total costs of all of the trips. And do I have to set? No. Alright, let's just check the other questions. So the calculates and determines the total cost of all of the trips. You find cheapest, returns the index. Determines the index of the trips array where the trip element had the lowest calculated cost. Setting this value to the instance variable cheapest trip. Okay, so this one doesn't actually return anything. All it does is well, because we don't have an actual property method for cheapest, we should make it return something, I guess. So in my mind, I think I'm gonna make it a function. Integer. I made mine a function. Okay, cool. That's fine. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is spin up some indexes. I'm gonna loop through it, right? The index. We're gonna start it at 1 as usual when we're finding a minimum. We don't need the trip actually. All we need is lowest cost. So lowest as double. One dot cost, right? Then we're gonna loop through everything. I'm gonna say, well, in here we're gonna say if if trips dot calculate cost is less than lowest, then I'm gonna set lowest equals to this, and I'm gonna set the new index. And we only have to start it on 2. Alright, that's my final cheapest. And the cheapest one. And now it has a couple things that it needs to do after that. It needs to assign cheapest to lowest. So we're gonna go cheapest trip equals to index. And yeah, that should be fine. We can actually return this. That works out perfectly. Alright, and let's see what else we need to do. So in display, right? Has the details of the travel card, including the information for each trip and the cheapest trip. So is the cheapest a subroutine or function? It's up to you. It's really up to you. It doesn't matter which one you use. Right now, it really doesn't matter. Return the cheapest trip. So let's see. Do I not return anything? I just return index, so it's fine. I set this in there, so I can just return this anyway. It's not a problem. It's already been stored. Alright, cool. Going on. Now we have the display function, right? I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna copy the display function from here. Because I am very lazy, and you shouldn't be lazy when you're big and strong and able to do this. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna just pop this down underneath there and say display function right? And there's stuff that's missing, but we know this has to be card ID. Then we're gonna put card ID down here. See string card ID. What else do we have up here? Card ID, number of trips, and cheapest trip. Yeah, I think that's all right then. Let's just see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then the last one is all about. It's going to be a for loop. Right. So in here, we go for integer 1, 2 trips. X. Oh, that's why it doesn't want to like me. Alright, that works out better. And I'm gonna go in here, it's gonna be 10 and equals. It's gonna go trips x dot display. Right, and that should work. It should work out quite nicely. Alright, I think that's everything for the two classes. I do think that is everything for the two classes. Yeah, it is. Could you guys give me a 5-minute break quickly? I just want to go and help my mom with something. I'll be right back. Literally right back, guys. In the meantime, please type out any questions you have in the question in the chat. Okay, I am back. I really apologize for that, guys. Let's get to it, right? So, last few questions are obviously on the form. We'll look at it. Okay, so let's actually pay attention to these questions now quickly. Should we also display the total cost? Yes, that's probably a smart idea. Afterwards. It should work out quite nicely. So may I see the find cheapest function? Sure. Find cheapest, right? Anything specific you wanted to ask? Line 16 and 17, shouldn't it be C double? Alright, let's just take a look at that quickly. 16 is here. No, we're converting it to string to put it in a string. This is a string, right? So here, this is a string, and we're putting it into a string. So that's why we're not doing that. What we can actually do is, instead of saying cheapest trip, what we can say is find cheapest. And the fact that we made it a function just makes that easier, right? Okay, cool. Somebody was looking at the find cheapest function. Is there any questions here regarding this? In actual fact, like, is there anything that you don't understand that's happening here? No? Okay, cool. So onwards we go. And the thing I wanted to look at was the actual question C and D. Alright, so firstly we're going to define an enumeration called transport mode, which assigns a numerical value to bus, minivan, boat, and train, right? Then for D, we're going to allow a user to input data for any number of travel card objects in an array, make use of the transport mode enumeration. Alright, then display the output of all of these that you've instantiated to a multi-line text box using the classes display function. Alright, so the first thing is all of that input needs to happen, and then all of that all of that needs to be outputted. That's question C and D. So firstly, we need to know how an enum works. Does anybody want to take a stab at how to work an enum? No, or not? Or are we not doing that? Does anybody want to try and suggest how we can create an enum? No, really? That's bad, guys. Enum called transport mode. Good guess. Good guess. I like that guess. Fun guess. Anyway, okay, let's go actually do it, right? So obviously we need some button for questions C and D. So let's plop that down quickly. There should be a toolbox somewhere. There we go, toolbox. And it's back. Alright, cool. So button. I'm gonna put you down here. Another one. Enum bus. Yep, that's exactly how you build an enum. An enum is just a set of named constants. Alright, so that was not what I wanted to do. Manage renames btn btn in, and the text is going to be like strips, right? And then we need a multi-line text box. I think that should be fine. For now, at least. Let's just quickly create an enum. We're going to go enum trans mode. Doesn't like that, okay. Growth equals 3, and trade equals. Alright, so that's some free marks for you, making an enum. Not much to do about that. Then we need some variables, right? So variables, the first thing we're going to need is private cards. Two marks is too small. Why? Why is it too small? It should be easy stuff. Right? It should be super easy stuff. You should be able to do this in your sleep. Okay, cool. So now we've got the number of cards and we've got the number of travel cards. So first things first, let's get the number of cards. And then we need to also get the number of actual, the number of, what's it called again? Trips, right? So you can do this in one of two ways, because if you look at it, right? When we look at trip, there is actually nothing there, but if you look at travel here, we've got the number of trips as an integer in here. So this means each person can have a different number of trips. Right, so I think that's how I'm going to do it, because I feel like it's just a bit easier for me. It makes a bit more sense to me. You don't have to, but because we have the ability to, I think it's just easier like that, right? So the first things that you're going to ask is you're going to be like, cards is going to be equal to cn box. The number of box. Nice. And then now we've got the number of cards, we're going to read them the array. And then we're going to set the number of cards. We'll do that already. Alright, cool. Now we have to for loop. Right. The next thing we need, I think it is. Where's my constructor done? Did I make the constructor? And there it is. It's the card ID and then it's the number of trips. My card crashed and I did not crashed and the rest of the practical was not aware of how to fix it. That's mostly going to be debugging. You need to be able to debug that one. So that's all though, so don't worry about it. Cool, that should give me a travel card X, but there's one thing missing, and that is the actual trips, right? We look at travel card, we've got 4 variables here. It's num card, num trips, and then this one is calculated. The only missing is that. How many practicals needed? I'm not sure what they're gonna decide. They'll see how well you guys do, but I have a feeling it should be around like 7 or 8. Alright, so yeah. So now the next thing we need for travel card X is to actually loop through all of the possible um, hmm. Let's just see something quickly. The travel card, we don't have a thing for num trips, do we? So I'm just gonna make one quickly. Just to show you guys how to do this whole thing with dynamic sized arrays inside one thing and see how it handles, right? So that's just what we're gonna do. Nice. That should make our lives a little bit easier there. So we can go here and we can go trips. Alright, now inside here we need to set each trip, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, wait, let's see in here what our constructor does. So what it does is it redeems each of those trips immediately. Right, so then we need to loop through this and assign trips. So assign trips. So I'm gonna dim trip as new trip trip. That equals to This is when 26. 26 is this one. This is just the for loop. I'm looping to the number of trips inside this travel card. It was assigned with the constructor here. If that makes sense. Does it? Does it not make sense though? Okay, that's cool. That's the trip. And let's see, string y. But I don't know if I made num trips public. Yes, don't ever do that. That's a bad idea. Rather just make a property method. Yeah, there we go. That gets the last kilometer. What else do we need to assign for the trip? Dot kilometers. Type. Please explain line 25. Okay. Line 25 is just me being lazy, right? So what I'm doing is I'm saying, well, travel cards X is equal to new travel card, but instead of putting a variable into a parameter, I'm putting an input box. This is a terrible way of coding and you should not do it. You should probably assign a variable so that you can find a mistake easily. But because I know I'm not going to have a mistake, I'm just doing it inside there. Don't do it on your own. You will have a problem and it will make too many brackets and it'll be very confusing to debug if a red line shows up. For example, if I miss this, right, it makes everything look pretty normal and you don't know what's cracking until you actually realize that there's a bracket missing. Or for example, if I forget one of these, right, this becomes a serious problem. So make sure you know what you're doing when you're doing it. The other way of doing it is doing something like this and putting num cards in here inside the constructor. Alright. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what else do we need for trip? We've got the so we need a description and mode of transport. Description and mode of transport. Description. What else was it? It was description and the transport mode. Okay, now for the transport mode, we have to make use of the actual enum, right? So that becomes a bit of a weird one. So what we have to do is we have to get an input box, get the type, right? And using the actual words bus, minibus, boat, or train, set the actual integer, right? So that's just a bit of a weird one. But yeah, so let's try and do that quickly. So in the form, what we need to do is we need to use the actual enum that we've defined, right? So first things first, we're gonna a string, call it answer. What let's call it. Since we're doing transport, let's call it transport, right? Doing transport as string. We're gonna set it equal to an input box as everybody else does. This is a string input box, so it's easy to copy and paste. Copy and paste life is So what we're going to do is we'll say please enter the description. That's not what we're looking for. We are looking for the transport mode. Right. And in here we're just going to add some cool stuff. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say bus mini van boats train. Right. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go, all right, select case. Select E, transport. I'm going to say, well, case of bus. In case of bus, what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, we need to set an integer. So we're going to say trip dot transport mode is equal to what did I call the enum again? Transport mode. Mode dot. And what this is saying is get the number associated with the bus word in transport mode. Sign it there. Right, and we need to do this a couple times. It's going to be 4 times if I remember. 3, 4. Next one is going to be minivan. And here we're going to go minivan. Boats. And train. Okay, so now that we've got everything, right? The trip has a transport mode, it has a description, it has kilometers, it has a cost per kilometer, right? Now what you can do is we can now set this trip to the travel card. So you can go travel card dot trip y equals to new trip equals to this trip here. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go travel. What did I call them again? It's travel cards. It's trip y. What's the trip? Right, and that is how we set up all of the information we need. Is done from line 24 up until line 45. Is it downcasting or upcasting? I'm still struggling to identify that. Line 24 to line 45. Okay, so in here, none of those. Those are neither upcasting nor downcasting. Okay, what happens is I create a travel card. Let's say you have a car class. I created one car class and I set it equal to another car class, right? So it's like parking a car into a car park. It's the same type. I didn't change the type here. You get it? So there's no upcasting or downcasting because the type never changed. Casting is when the type changes. Does that make sense? All right. This is actually everything you need for input. All right. So we got the stuff. We got all of the stuff for the cards. We got the 1, 2 things there, and then we got all of these things for each trip. That is everything that we need for input. I think it is. Yeah. I think that's everything we need for input. Let's just see. Okay, then we have to display it, right? So that's D. Let's see if we can put a nice thing here saying question C to transport mode. Please explain how we are selecting the transport mode. Sure thing. Right. So what happens is first thing I ask for is a string, right? Either a bus, a minivan, a boat, or a train, right? Then I go select case. If they actually did type bus, then I'm gonna go set the trip's transport mode to transport mode bus, which this returns an integer, right? Because that's what you have up here, right? Bus equals 1. So when you say transport mode bus, what you get back is 1. And that's how that works. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, cool. Now we have to display, right? Am I gonna do it in one card and be a terrible coder? Yes, I am, because I am a horrible, horrible coder. You should have a function for displaying, but I'm just gonna display it here. Right, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go for Z as integer plus 1 cards Z say T. Okay, first we clear the text. TXT. I didn't rename it, did I? So that's terrible on my part. Xbox One. Clear. And text box 1. Texts and equals travel cards. And that's how we display. I use the C#. And that's displaying done. Let's look at what's next. What's the next question? Okay, now we're on E and F files, right? So the first thing we have to do is actually save a file to that's another thing. When we enter a type of transport and checking the correct input, will it be case sensitive? Yes, it probably will be case sensitive. So what you can do is you can always do a two-upper thing, but you'll learn that at a later stage. For now, don't worry about that. Your time is too short for you to consider all of those things. Maybe if you have time at the end of your test, you can consider those things. Does that make sense? Save the cheapest trip object of each travel card to a sequential file and the student number and extension IPv. You may assume that the file is saved in a local folder of the Visual Basic application. You may also create the file and save all the objects without having to create, close, open, write, and close again. Very cool. So what that means is file stream. That's what that means. Very cool. So in a separate text box, display the average cost of the cheapest trips by reading them all from the sequential file. Your code may not rely on any variables that have been previously used to determine how many trips there are in the file. So that's talking about EOF stuff, right? That's clear what that's about. So first, let's talk about saving. So I'm going to make a button for saving, and then we're going to deal with that from there. All right. So let's close that. Let's go here. Toolbox button. Put it here. ETN, save, and then text is going to be save to file, save cards, save cheapest. Right. Let's just say first. We'll come back and add a button for reading. Right. So the first thing is we're gonna need to create a file stream, right? So let's walk you through this. So first we're gonna create file stream. Then we're gonna need to create a binary formatter, right? And then we're gonna serialize. Right? Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna, once you've serialized, then we're gonna have to null the binary formatter. Delete formatter, and then what we're gonna do is we're going to close the file stream. And then we're gonna delete the file stream. And then we're going to give some feedback, otherwise people are just going to keep clicking the button. Right? So this is the steps in how to do a file. So first, we're going to create the file stream. So we're going to go dim fs new file stream. That's not it. File stream, right? And a file stream needs some parameters here. What does it need? Well, it needs a file name, it needs a file mode, and it needs a file access. Now we need to know where the file name actually is, right? So we haven't dealt with that yet. But let's just set up a file name quickly, right? So we need this outside of our function for two reasons. First reason is because we're opening and closing it in different functions, so it can't be declared in the function. And two, it's easier to read if it's just outside of the top here. All right. You can make it a constant if you want to. I think it's better if it's a constant. File name and string. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with my name. And then anyone's IPv. Alright. I think there's a question from somebody. Would it be better if we declare BF and FS and BF as global variables? So right here, right, where I talk about this, because I'm creating them each time and then I'm instantiating them and then I'm deleting them, I think it's just easier if I put them outside. Does that make sense? So let's say you created the file and then you realize there's a mistake in some class. If you do not change changes in that class, is that affecting the created file? Yes, it will affect the created. No, it won't. Once you've saved the file, right? It's saved like that. So you then need to delete that file and recreate it if you want the changes to carry over into your file. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So yeah, so essentially with this whole idea of declaring it as a global variable, you're more than welcome to, but I think it's just easier like this because we're creating and deleting it inside each function so that it doesn't waste space. I think it's like this because obviously it's going to be cleaned up anyway by the garbage collector once you leave this function. So I think that just makes it a bit smoother for us. Yeah, so we need a file name. So right, then the other thing that we need is maybe the access mode, right? once we have the access mode, in this version, it's going to be create. I want it to be create, and because if it's not there, we need to create it. Access. Wait, that's file mode. My bad. Create. File access is at the end. Notice that file mode and file access are both enumerations that are declared inside VB that we don't see. Right? Isn't that pretty cool? I think that was questions. Okay, cool, yeah. Alright, then let's deal with this, right? So we got the file name, we got that, we got BF. Now we need to serialize a trip. So that means we need to go here and we need to make this serializable, right? So does anybody know why we're making it serializable? Yes, no, maybe. It's a great option to answer. Please explain that part to convert it to binary. Not really, right? So what you're doing is you're telling the computer how much space this class needs, right? So I don't know if it's 1 or 2, I don't remember. It's clearly 1 then. Right, so what we're doing is we're saying this is the file that that needs to work here, right? So we need to make sure it's serializable. And what about import statements? Let's go check what happened to our import statements once we created BFS and FS. It already automatically added it. Visual Studio is amazing, right? Not really, but it's pretty cool, right? So now we need to serialize the actual trip that we're trying to deal with, right? And it's a bit more difficult than you might imagine, because it's a lot to wrap your head around. Because you have to understand that this is going to be happening in a for loop. To cards. Right, and then we're going to use the binary formatter, serialize, and the only thing you can serialize is a trip. You have to put the file stream in there, and then you're going to go travel cards. Yeah, so what I was thinking about there was, why do we not use 2 for loops? Well, the reason we're not using 2 for loops is because we're just going to go, well, we only want 1 per travel card, right? So one of the trips is the best for this, right? I'm not sure it's trip or trips. It's trip. And then in here, what we're going to do again is in a travel card, X dot find cheapest. Right? And that will allow us to serialize 1 thing. Alright, then we're going to delete the formatter. So we're going to say BF equals to nothing. Remember to always delete. You get marks for deleting. I'm going to close the file stream, so we're going to go fs.close. I'm going to delete the file stream. I'm going to go fs equals to nothing. And now we can just do a message box saying cheapest have been saved. Right, and that's how we do a file. That's how we do a file. Any questions with saving? Line 70. Line 70, you're lost. Okay. Let's dissect this a little bit, right? So let's go dem cheapest as integer, right? I'm gonna set this equal to Control X, Control V, and then we're gonna just put cheapest in here. Right? Does that help in any way? So what I'm saying is, first get the index of the cheapest, which is actually the card.find cheapest. Then I'm saying, well, send the trip at the cheapest point to the file stream and serialize it. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, cool. As long as that makes sense. So there, now the cheapest have been saved. Now we need obviously another button. Another button. Go to properties. And the top here, this is going to be button get average. What is to serialize and what is the use of it? All right, so when we're making using a file stream in a sequential file, what it means is we are storing these class objects or the data related to them, like the internal attributes, to some file, right? So now so we need to make some rules about how big those records are going to be. That's what serialize does. Serialize tells the file stream how much each class instance or each object needs, how much space it needs. So we needed space for like in trip, we needed space for like the kilometers, the cost per trip, the description, all of that stuff. It needs that space to be able to save it to the file, if you get what I'm saying. I'm hoping that helps you understand that. All right, cool. Now, the next one is the opposite. It is reading from a file, right? And that's not necessarily worse, but it's going to follow the same kind of rules, right? So, as usual, we're gonna create a file stream, create the formatter. Then what we're gonna do is file. So we're gonna read from the file till it's not the end. And then we're gonna close, we're gonna delete formatter, and we're gonna close the stream. And then we're going to delete the stream. Right, so for these two, I'm just going to copy and paste because very similar. The only difference is instead of having a create, I'm going to have open and read instead of write. Right, Open and read. Right? And do the same thing for you. Create a BF. See, IT people can create their own BFs. Isn't that great? Sorry about the cheesy joke, but yes. Alright, now for an average, right? We're doing an average. So one of the things we need to do is create a total. So let's dim that up. Right, now we've got total. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, well, and we need a count, right? Because we don't know how many is up there. We're not gonna rely on any variables. Now I'm gonna set count equal to 0, u equal to 0, 2, right? And then I'm gonna say, well, while fs dot where I am is smaller than the end, then you're reading, right? So that makes things a bit easier. You can say, well, let's get the trip out of it, right? Trip 1, trip 1 equals to direct costs. EF dot deserialize FS and we're casting it to a trip. Right, and then we're gonna say, well, total plus equals trip 1 dot calculate costs. Calculate trip costs and we increase count. Right, and then now we have all of the tools we need to get an average. The formatter BF equals nothing. Close the file stream. FS close. Delete the file stream. FS close. Nothing. And then we need to display this average, right? So let's clear the text box and plop the average down. Or maybe we want to read this stuff while we're waiting. So let's just put another text box down quickly. I'm just gonna call you daily elevation. Okay, then we're gonna go tf text string total where current. And that's that, and we're done. That is your whole practical, done and dusted. Any questions before we go? Oh wait, there's a question in here. When you get an error that says reference to non-member requires an object reference in this issue of binary formatter .serialize .stream, how to fix it. All right, so well, what that says is you need to create an object of the class you're trying to access the binary formatter in, right? So what you want to do then is rather keep the binary formatter on your form. Don't try and use it in a class or anything like that, because what you're going to do is you're going to have a problem where you'll have to be creating stack numbers, right? And that's a bit of an issue. So rather try to make sure you use your stuff in the form where you have no need to instantiate things unless and then always remember to do this. The BF as new binary formatter. That'll create a new object instance of the binary formatter. Alright, so this new here, this new keyword is really important. Cool. So that's how you want to do things like that. Any other questions, guys? So can you go back to the create and save file code? Sure thing. Here we go. I try to put nice comments so that you guys can kind of see what I'm trying to do as I'm doing it and why. Does that make sense? Oh, there was a whole semester test in 2 hours. Not bad. Not bad at all. Alright? So you guys can do this quite easy. Don't worry. You got this. Alright, any final questions before I go off? No problem. I definitely get paid for this, but I'm always happy to help. How does the count act as a denominator for average? Okay, so when I get the average of something, right? Let's say I'm getting the average of student marks. So let's just look at that, right? So when I get the average for something, let's say I'm getting the average for student marks, right? The first thing I do is I add all of the people's marks up together, right? And then I divide by the number of students. So count is just the number of times I have deserialized from the file, while total is the actual number of the calculated trip costs that I got there, right? So and that's obviously for the cheapest trip each time. You want me to test the code, or okay, cool, let's test it. And it's in your best interest to test after you do each bit of code. I just do this because I guess I'm like that. How many cards? Let's just go with 3. Please enter the ID 001. When will this be uploaded to keep practicing? I don't know what you mean by that. Do you mean like my code? Do you want my code to be uploaded? That'll never happen. But this will be on YouTube by like Wednesday-ish or so, latest. Please enter the number of trips. We're gonna go 2. Cost for trip 1, $100. Please enter the kilometers. 150. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it'll be by Wednesday at least. Please enter the description for trip 1, 150 kilometers. It is to Vereeniging. I don't know how to spell Vereeniging. Whatever. Please enter. I'm gonna go bus. Then for the cost of trip 2, it was, let's go with 6,000 rand. And into the kilometers, 600,000. This is to Durban. To Durban. JHB. Durban. And please enter the thing. It's going to be via boat. We're going to go to Durban via boat. And for the card ID, it's going to be 002. Number of trips, you got 2. Let's go with 3 because we're cool. Cost of trip 1, 800 kilometers. It's 150. To Centurion. Right. We're doing this via minivan. Please enter the cost for trip 2. It's going to be 600. to page B. Okay, now we've got an exception, an invalid cost. Oh, I put the name in the kilometers. Why am I so dumb? Yes, so I was just making a joke there just to test. But yeah, so I'm the dumb one here because I tried to put yeah, so I couldn't put Joburg into kilometers, which is expected, right? But yeah, let's try that again. Let's just go with one card this time, otherwise we'll just never leave here because I'll keep making mistakes. To CPT. Plus. Isn't the cost for 160 kilometers, 145? It's a towed boat, bro. Have you never seen that idea? You just put the boat onto somebody else's car, you sit in the boat, and you go to Durban while they drive. Into the description. To Kyalami. We're gonna use me man. Leads into the cost for trip 3, 650. The kilometers is gonna be 750, and this is gonna be the description 750, and that should be to Durban by a bus, right? And then we get this right. So card 1, number of trips 3, cheapest trips Cape Town. Its cost per kilometer is 150. Trip cost is 27,000 rand. Okay, that's a bit of a lot of cash there. But look at this one, 224,000 rand. Okay, yeah, so save the cheapest has been saved. Get average. It's 27,000 rand because there's only one in the file because there's only one cheapest. Nice. So you see everything works. If I type in the correct stuff. Alright guys, I think that's it for me for today. Isn't this the cost supposed to be cost per kilometer instead of total cost? Yeah, but that's just me writing stuff wrong in the input box, so that's easy to fix for you guys. But yeah, have a great day guys, have a great weekend, study hard for your tests, make sure you pass everything, make sure you understand all of the content from the work. Remember, here's the composition, right? So if you look at travel card, this is where the composition actually happens. So up here, this is going to be, here's composition. Because a travel card has trips, so just remember that. Anyway, bye-bye. Have a great time.